Hey y'all, welcome to a Mindless Morning Show special interview. Sit back and relax with your hosts, Nick and Josh.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Mindless Morning Show. We have a special guest for you today, Mickey Burns. He's the president of Quest Media Entertainment, which produces TV shows and all sorts of media. And he's also the host of a show called Profiles, which is has been on for a very long time. How long has it been on?
About 20 years.
20 years. Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. So thank you for being here. And if you could tell us a little bit about yourself for the listeners.
Well, as you said, I'm president of Quest Media, which is a television production company. And over the years, we've produced various TV shows, Profiles being our most successful. And we do a lot of event filming as well, such as the local Emmy Awards and, the Tony Award, things in New York City for years. So, and we produce television commercials, music videos, but that's what the company does. I'm basically the host and producer of Profiles and have been for 20 years. Hard to believe. It's flown. Hard to believe. I see that guests that I've had on the show today, and I see they're in the news about one thing or another, and I say, man, I had Jody Watley on. That was 17 years ago.
Wow.
The years fly by, and we've been doing it 20 years.
How has COVID affected all of that?
It has slowed us down. When it first hit, everything in New York was completely shut down.
Yeah.
We tried to do the Zoom thing like you guys are doing, but we weren't too good at it. And on like NYC Media is a network, it goes out to 20 million people in New York City in 50-mile radius of the city. And, CNN does a good job with the Zoom, but, we were trying it and we had dropouts, and sometimes the guests looked like they were looking into a Christmas ball, and we just weren't happy with it because, we've been doing it on set in Times Square for many, many years, and we have it down to a science, and the set looks so great. So we decided to not do the Zoom and compete with guys like you who do it better than we were trying to do it.
Well, we're actually pretty new at this, which is funny. But yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, I gotta say though, watching Profiles, like it's a very intimate session of questions and as an interview, and I don't think that's something that could really be achieved as well virtually, more so as it is face to face.
I agree with you. I need to have the guests, 5 feet away from me, face to with 4 cameras going at the same time, with the lights and the cameras and the drama of that setting. And it works for us, and it has worked for us, and we decided not to deviate from it. So to answer your question, it's been tough to get the kind of guests that we were getting. We were getting A-list celebrities consistently. We did the show from Times Square, and many of the celebrities would come in. We had a new book out, a new CD, a new TV show, a new movie, and we were in a location where they could do the Today Show, Sirius Radio, Good Day New York. We were all in like a 3 or 4 block area.
Oh wow!
But now there's no more books, right? Who's out PRing a book? No one. So our pool of celebrities, we've had to work much harder to get them, and we almost felt like they had to be really brave to come in studio.
Yeah. It is crazy. It is so different doing it like this than doing it in person. You get so many different. I can't imagine because we've only been doing this. We started this podcast in 2020 because of how terrible the year was, and we were like, we wanted to try to make something fun for people to listen to not think about 2020.
We've also never actually met in real life, so I mean, it's just something that works.
So nobody's coming to New York. Like you can go to Times Square; it's a ghost town.
Oh my God!
So let alone celebrities, they're not coming into New York. And those that do live here, like Kevin Bacon and guys like that, they're not leaving their condos.
Jeez. Even still.
We've done the interviews. There are people that are willing to sit down with us. So we've continued to do it, but it's been harder the way we've been operating for 20 years. I think hopefully this coming year, we'll get somewhat close to normal again.
I'm hoping. It seems like it's getting closer little by little, which is good. So tell us about your first book you wrote.
Well, the book is called From the Projects to Profiles. And the reason I wrote it was I grew up in the South Beach projects, housing projects, Staten Island. And the projects, housing projects in New York City have a reputation of being low income, people kind of struggling to make it financially. Mm-hmm. And that wasn't so much the case when I was growing up. It was after World War II, and that's where all the soldiers coming home would live.
Okay.
It was a meager beginning, and I knew from a very young age I'd have to figure out a way, if I wanted to get out, how would I do so? And I realized that my father was a good athlete, and I inherited his athletic genes. So I knew because I used to say to my mother, Mom, what do you think about me going to college? And she would always smile and say, up for you to do that, but you're going to have to get a scholarship. Because we didn't have any money. Nobody had any, and it wasn't easy to get loans, college, like it is today. Almost anybody can go to college. Back in the 60s, when I was thinking of going to college, either you got a scholarship or you pay.
Yeah.
And my parents couldn't afford. So I ended up putting a lot of time in to become a good athlete. And I succeeded at that and ended up getting a football scholarship and baseball scholarship at college in Missouri.
Hell yeah.
Changed my life. But I wanted to write the book to talk about my upbringing and growing up in that environment, and really to inspire people to say, no matter where you come from, if you work hard and you're determined and you set some serious goals, you can accomplish anything, really.
It's true.
Excuse to why you can't be successful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
the beginning of the book.
That's perfect. That's perfectly well spoken. And I said this on a show a couple months ago, but something that my dad had told me that always stuck with me was the key to success is knowing what to do and doing it. And I was like,
yeah. It sounds simple, but it's profound.
Mm-hmm.
It's profound.
Exactly.
So at the time I went to college, I wanted to get into broadcasting right out of college. But in those days, I graduated, got my master's in 1970. So back in those days, it was BC, which stands for before cable. Well, what there was is like ABC, NBC, that was it. And maybe PBS, a couple of local channels, maybe. So there wasn't a lot of opportunity, and I said, man, it may take, and I wanted to come back to New York. And I said, well, how long is it going to take me to get back here? Because I would have had to start out in Boise, Idaho, and then work out, to Kansas. There's a progression in the broadcast industry. So I decided, to come back to New York, and I did, and became a teacher and a coach. And I did that for a number of years until I got a break and I got a job at Fox News in New York City.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Yeah, that is cool. That was one of our
How
questions.
was that for you? Is that like something that just like completely exploded your world?
Well, it did. And I got in by accident, and I write about it in the book because I was teaching and coaching, but my heart was in broad. I want to be that's what I'm doing now is what I wanted to do. But I was playing golf with a bunch of guys, who worked at Fox News in New York City. And I also was in my early life, and I had a band, and I knew sound equipment. So one day we're playing golf. One of my buddies said, "Hey, listen, my partner is going on vacation. Maybe I can get you in as a sound man on the 10 o'clock news. Would you be interested?" And I said, "Sure, I'll try it." And the first day I was there, I was with him. I was the sound man with the boom mic and the lavalier mics, and he was the camera guy. We went to City Hall for a news conference. I think Koch was the mayor then, possibly. And it was very exciting. And after we finished with that, we got a call from the station and said, "Your next assignment is go up to Yankee Stadium on the field and get sound bites with the Yankees before the game."
Nice.
Wow.
I said, "Oh my God," I was so hooked on day one. I said, "This is the greatest job that man ever created." And here I am talking to like Derek Jeter on the field at Yankee Stadium.
Wow.
It could be better than that, So it was very exciting. And from day one, and I said, well, now, I'm not a sound man. I want to be a host. I want to be a reporter. So from day one, I was like a sponge, trying to learn everything I can learn, so that one day they would let me get in front of the camera, which I eventually got.
And it happened.
Are you interested? How did I get in front of the camera? Was Fox in New York City. It was Metro Media before it was Fox, and Rupert Murdoch took over Fox. And the first thing he did was cut out all the overtime. So all the guys working couldn't pay their bills because they were making like $60,000 a year, and then $60,000 in overtime. So a lot of them had trouble paying the mortgage. So we said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to form a group and moonlight on the side. And we did. And of course, I wanted to be, the reporter and the host, and that worked out great. So the first thing we did was, because of our connections, we got to deal with Time Warner to produce a news magazine called Special Edition. And we did that, and I was the host. And we had the camera guys and the sound guys and the editors. That was our team. And I did 13 episodes of that. And then Time Warner liked me and hired me to be an anchorman.
Oh, wow.
So, and now it's all full throttle because I play golf with the right guys.
That's amazing.
It's usually who you know.
That's amazing.
As they say.
Well, because we had an interview with an up and coming rock star who started his own band, and he's doing really good. And he started because he talked to his tennis coach, and she talked to somebody that she knew, and then boosh.
Yeah, and if I'm boring you with any of this, just say we'll go on to the next question. But
not at
As
all.
soon as I got into Fox, my friend said to me, I was only there 3 months or something. He said, I got you on a special. We're doing a special on domestic violence. Specials were great because you work 12 hours, 13 hours in a day. You can make like $2,000 for the week being on a special. He said, on Saturday night, we're going to Patterson, New Jersey, to a police station, and we're going to wait until we get a domestic violence call.
Oh, shit.
So I go to the station, we drive over to Patterson, we get to the police station, and I said, we're going to be sitting here all night waiting for this stupid call to come in. It may never come in. We're there like 2 minutes, the phone rings, the sergeant picks it up, and it's a woman whose husband is beating her up and has a knife, okay? And she's afraid he's going to kill her. So the sergeant said to us, come on, guys, you're on. So we got in the backseat of the police car, head out to the house, and we got there in about 5 minutes. It was like an old Munster house, big, old, dark. And go in, all the lights are off, and the woman comes screaming, I think he's got a gun now, and he's got a knife, and he's violent. And I'm saying, we're going to go into this house now. So the cops go in with their guns drawn, and we follow them. I got the boom mic. He's got the camera with the light. And we're going around the house, but it's pitch black. You can't even see in there, And we got up to, it's very scary, by the way. We got up to the second floor landing. I'll try to make this brief. Second floor, and the cop noticed that the window was open about 12 inches. It was February. He said, I think the guy jumped out. So we went around the back of the house, talk about a junkyard, old tires, leaves, brooms, everything there. So the cops with the flashlights are looking to the bushes, and I noticed on the ledge, second floor ledge, I thought I saw the tip of a sneaker. So I said to my partner Richie, I said, "Shine your light on the second floor landing." And he did, and damn it, it was the guy leaning. You could hardly see him, but he's leaning on the second floor ledge, and the cops were looking the other way. But I noticed the tip, right? So now the guy on the ledge realizes we got him. Cops are still looking the other way. So we shine the light on him. Cops turn around and see him, and they say, "There he is." Now, meanwhile, we're standing in the same spot in the middle. We haven't moved, in the middle of the yard. Cops come running past us. The guy does his best Spider-Man, leaps off the second story on the cops. And they're wrestling in the leaves. And we're standing there like filming this whole thing, you know? And then they put him in cuffs. They finally apprehend him, and they drag him back to the police car. So that was a major part of the special, you know, which they followed him right to being booked, and then into court, you know, weeks later with the woman. The special won an Emmy Award. That was the highlight of the special, right? And the people on the West Coast saw it, the Fox people out there, and that was the seed for the series Cops.
Wow.
Because they saw that scene in the documentary, in the special, and they said, "Wouldn't that make a great idea? We can just have guys, Cameron, roll around with them all night long and come back with this great stuff." And that was like unbelievable. It was unbelievable.
That's insane.
That is incredible. I grew up loving Cops.
Me too.
I don't know if it's still on, but it was on for like 20-something years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were the ones that gave them the idea to do it when they saw the special with that scene.
That's amazing, because when you were telling the story, I was actually thinking in my head, like, this is sounding like Cops, and that's what it is, essentially. Started it.
It was like a movie that you had scripted. You couldn't have scripted it, and we never moved from that spot. And the guys were fighting around us, and he leaped off next to it. You couldn't plan it.
I mean,
you know,
I got to thank your bravery. That the world has to thank your bravery for getting that footage and sound for the birth of Cops.
I say to my partner as we were going up the dark stairs, I said, "If we get killed, how much does our family get?" And he said, "Oh, they'll get $100,000 if you get killed on the job." I said, "Yeah, but what, $100,000 for your life?" You know, this is what we're talking about as we're going up the stairs, you know?
Wow. Yeah, that is scary. Yeah, like, it's crazy talking about it now. I'm sitting here like, whoa, but at the time, horrifying.
A gun or a knife, and it's pitch black, you know? It was very scary.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So
thank you for your bravery, because it's a great entertaining show.
I was just trying to get broadcast. That was all I was.
Now in the police report, they had to have said that Mickey Burns, they shined the light, him and his crew, or helped us.
I know, like we weren't there. It wasn't there. No, it's like we weren't there. And I'll tell you what happened. We followed them back in a different police car to the station, and they booked him, and then they brought him to the cell. And I swear, when they threw him in the cell, and the cell went boom, locked him in the cell. It was like break for commercial. It was unbelievable. You know, as I said, it was like a scripted movie. Boom, break for commercial.
Wow. And then it would have been hilarious if the guy that got arrested said, "I would have gotten away with it if it weren't for you, Mickey Burns."
Well, you know what happened? Ultimately, they followed them to court and everything else, and the woman dropped the charges. These charges, and we asked her, "Well, why, you know, you thought he was going to kill?" She said, "Well, he's all I got. You know, I don't work. I'm dependent on him to pay the bills, to buy the food. If he goes to jail, who's going to do that for me?" So, and he went, you know, the whole thing. He went free.
Wow. Yeah, and that just highlights a whole different problem in certain. Yeah.
That made the special so interesting. Most of the women do that. Once they get to court, they change their minds because they're dependent on the person.
Wow.
That's very.
And so, but before we forget, I want to talk about your second book, The Inside Celebrity Profiles. So is that, tell us about that.
Well, that was pandemic driven in that we decided to do it as the pandemic hit because we realized we'd have some more time to do so. Right. And one day, right after the pandemic, I've had the same photographer on the set for 20 years.
Oh, wow.
And just a day out of a whim, I said to him, his name is Robert Brunfeld. And I said, Robert, how many photos do you think you've taken over the 20 years on the set, in and around the set? He follows them onto the street, the guests and all of that, He says, I have no idea, but I'll check. So he went home that night. He checked in the computer. He got back to me that night. He said, I have 15,502 photos. I said, you're kidding me. It wouldn't dawn on me he had over 15,000 photos. So I called up our publicist, and I already had a relationship with the publisher from my first book. And once I told them we had that many photos, I had a contract to do another book within a week.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Summer with one of my producers going through the 15,000 photos. And then we broke it up into categories: the singers, the actors, the comedians, the athletes, like that. So it made it, we had some organization, we had a direction. And I would say by the end of the summer, we completed the book.
And so out of all those pictures, how many actually made it into the book?
A lot didn't. That's a good question because, you're talking about, 500 episodes. Now, I would say maybe 1/8 of the picture. I mean, because each page has, 5 or 6 pictures on it. As an average, you have 120 pages. But yeah, I had to leave out a lot of people, which didn't mean 20 pages.
So you plan on doing like sequels?
I don't know. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
My first book took about 1.5 years to write.
Oh, wow.
The coffee, much, much easier. But I spent, I'm going to guess, 2 years writing the 2 books.
Something like that, I feel like is so great for just reminiscing,
Yes. Yeah. People love it because, we all grew up with a lot of these stars, and to see them behind the scenes, get makeup put on, having something to eat with us after the interview, they're priceless, really. And a lot of them have passed away. We just lost Christopher Plummer recently. We just lost Mary Wilson from the Supremes. I had her on a show about 8 months ago. Wow. And they're in the book. But a lot of these people I've had on the show over the 20 years, maybe 50 of them have passed.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's another thing I was going to ask is how, because it definitely is going to hit you differently when you hear about these people passing that you've had in interviews over and over, and you've become friends with more so than us.
Yeah. It hurts. You feel like an extended family member. And you're right, not all of them, but there are some who have been special, and I have grown to be good friends with. I can think of one like Tony Orlando. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he had a show on CBS, Tony Orlando and Dawn, back in the 70s. He was a big star. But now he's got a radio show on the Oldies channel in New York. But, when I wrote my first book, I have his cell phone number. He's a big celebrity. And I needed a blurb for my book. So I reached out to a lot of the celebrities to put quotes on what their experience was like on the show on the back cover. So I sent it to Tony, and I'm going to guess within 10 minutes, that blurb was in my inbox in my email.
Amazing.
Second book, I asked him again, and within 10 minutes again, it was there. When he performs in New York, I go to see him. So you're right. Some of them have become friends and extended family. So others, they're acquaintances, but you still feel some connection with them because you've done an intimate profile on their life and career.
Exactly. Yeah. You get to do what essentially we're doing what you do, except we're doing it all virtually, but you're doing it. It's really cool that what you've been able to do. Like it's amazing. Like you're like a master interviewer.
I don't know. I'm not sure. Somebody asked me once in one of these interviews, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you think your interviewing skills are? And I said, probably a 2.
What?
Yeah. I said, I'm just happy and honored that they let me do it. The last thing I'm going to do is pat myself on the back. I can't do that.
Well, this doesn't look good for us, Nick. We're probably like a -7 at this point. I mean, if he's at a 2, we're fucked.
And the guy, I said that one of the first things you learn is to make fun of yourself. Don't praise yourself.
Yep.
We do that a lot.
I mean, a lot of self-deprecation around here.
Our show is the Mindless Morning Show. So that's in the name that we're not expected to be the most brilliant.
Right. So in the book, I also write a lot about, mistakes people make who are trying to be interviewers, and how to dress. A lot of people make mistakes even today. Even some of the big stars I watch on TV, they wear ties and they have all kinds of checks and plaids, and it's dancing all over the place. So I put, some advice or things that I've learned along the way. Like my mentor gave me some advice early on. He said, no matter what you do in an interview, never let them see you sweat. And I didn't know what he meant, but I do now.
That's good advice.
But you're going to have tough questions occasionally, right? I'll give you an example. I just had Rita Coolidge, another famous singer, who was married to Chris Christopherson on the show. And it was a great interview, but I had to ask her about her sister was murdered by her husband. He shot his first sister and then turned the gun on himself. And almost every interview that are important to ask, but when and how you ask them can make or break your interview.
Yeah.
And that's a good example of never let them see you sweat. If you sense that the person is really doesn't want to respond or is uncomfortable with it, it's a skill set to not make them feel uncomfortable and move on to the next question. And if they do want to answer it, try to make them feel like good about sharing that with us.
Yeah, because it's like what we usually do is we have like a list of questions and we don't hit everyone, but sometimes depending on how the mood is, we'll circle back to it. If we're all laughing and we got something really silly to ask, we'll circle back and then ask something dumb. And
like Christopher Plummer, he just passed. He passed away a week ago, right? But he was in The Sound of Music. It made his career. But I know he hates that movie. But how can I not? So when I asked him, The Sound of Music, blah, 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 he said, I hate that movie. Next question. All right. That's okay. But you smile and you laugh and you go on to the next question, and that was it. But I had to ask it. And I kind of knew what the response was going to be.
So
exactly.
Out of this mass amount of interviews that you've done, I mean, you're bound to have like a favorite and a worst.
Yes, I do. I don't have one favorite. I have maybe, and they're in the book. I have my top 10 in the book.
Oh, okay. Excellent.
But I'm going to guess there's 20 favorites, and I do have a worst, but one of my favorites was Joe Montana, the football quarterback.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And to tell you the truth, I remember nothing about the interview.
Excellent.
was what happened before the interview. And that was, we had to go to New Jersey to interview him in his hotel suite. They said, come an hour before, and Joe will be here at 5:30. Great. We get there at 4:30. We set the sound, the lights, and they put out a beautiful spread for us. I said, this is a classy operation. Cold cuts, potato salad, you name it, shrimp cocktail. I said, these guys are treating us right. So Joe walks in at 5:30, and I see his manager come give me the finger like this. I said, oh, my God. He's going to give me the parameters, what to ask and what not to ask. And he brings me into the corner. He looks me right in the eye, and he said, who ate Joe's dinner? The food wasn't for us. The food was his. Oh my! I felt like a kid with his hand in a cookie jar, And all I remember my interview with Joe Montana saying, "Joe, I'm so sorry we ate your dinner, but it was for us." And then, I don't know if he let cook or he's being gracious. He said, "Mick, never eat that garbage. I'm going out to it." So that's what I remember. And what I learned there was never assume anything, never assume anything. But that was what I don't remember the interview, but I remember, what happened before. And George Foreman, I love George Foreman. The boxer, heavyweight boxer.
Yes.
Because I wanted to talk about boxing, and all he wanted to talk about was business. He's been very successful. I wanted to talk about him and Ali and the rumble in the jungle. And he said, kept trying to teach me about business. And he said, Mickey, what I've learned is, there's no such thing as a good business deal unless both parties are happy.
Yeah.
And, that makes a lot of sense because, it's a cutthroat world and everyone wants to get the upper hand,
Exactly.
So I took that away from George Foreman. He was great. I had Joan Rivers on 3 times. Loved every minute of it. He was so smart and funny.
Yeah, that's
Robinson on. I love Smokey.
Nice.
Tony Orlando was the best. And the list goes on, just Robert Wagner. I don't know if you know him, but was a big TV star for 3 decades.
yeah.
I have stories for each. How about Chuck Barris? That's before your time. But there was a show, a big show called The Gong Show.
I feel like I've heard of that. I feel like I've heard of it.
Well, they had bad acts came on, and it was almost like American Idol with the 3 judges, and the bad act would come on, and then if it was bad enough, they would gong him with the gong, and they'd have to get off the stage.
Yes, I do know of that.
But so he was a legend, and he also wrote the Dating Game and the Newlywed Game. Big show. So at the end of my last question, I always ask every guest, what do you hope your legacy will be? And Chuck Barris didn't hesitate, said, I want it written on my tombstone, gonged at last.
That's perfect.
He passed away about 7 years ago, and that's what's on. I read in the Times. That's what's on the tombstone.
Wow. That's I like that. I do like that.
I'm not disappointed in that. That's pretty clever.
So it's interesting with like the questions and stuff like that, and like with our I don't know what you would say our interviews. We have a list of our questions that we come up with throughout the week, and then we just say a few of them, and we let the interview go wherever it's going to go. You could talk about a story about walking your dog, and we are super into it, and we like it because we want you guys to be comfortable.
Yes. Well, you're very natural.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you.
You can't learn that. Either you are or you aren't, But I wanted to get to your last question, which was, who was the worst? Right?
Yeah.
And I had this Broadway actor. His name was Ben Vereen. He was also in Roots. Do you know the actor? You probably don't know him. But famous, he was in Pippin. Famous Tony Award-winning actor. Never met him before the interview. So Ben sits down. My first question is, Ben, you haven't been on Broadway in a while, but how you doing? How's everything going? Ben went off on a tangent for 20 minutes. would not let me back in the interview. When I tried to get into that, he would say, "Oh, just 1 second, just 1 second," and he'd go off on a tangent. So after the first question, I stopped him. I said, "Ben, this is a 30-minute show. We tape it." Right. And I said, 20 minutes, I have 20 questions to ask. You used up most of the interview. Could you shorten your answer? Oh, Mickey, I apologize. Oh, yeah, let's go. I asked him another second question, went off another 20 minutes.
Oh, my God.
I got a half-hour show. I'm 40 minutes in, right? And I'm at my third question, which I have maybe 15 or 16 questions.
Oh, my God.
So we ended up interviewing an hour and a half. I can get all the questions in. And now the poor editor has to hour and a half, make it like 25 minutes, and still make it compelling and make it flow. So that we're not happy with that, But that was my first, because a good interview is give and take, get some rhythm, try to keep your sound bites down to a certain extent. And I would say most of my interviews were good, with give and take. You can never control them. Everyone has a different tempo and a different idea of how it should go. But that was a nightmare.
Wow.
Yeah, I can only imagine. That would be really frustrating. And that is one thing that I do like about podcasting, is because it doesn't matter. Like, if you wanted to be here for 30 minutes or you want to be here for 2 hours, it's unregulated. And that kind of leads me into one of my next questions, which is about how there's so many people doing podcasting, and we started it up and it didn't cost a lot of money to start. I mean, we do have our monthly fee things, premium, because we have premium on everything, but it's really not that hard to get into it. Now, how do you feel about so many people doing podcasting?
Well, I think it's an opportunity. It wasn't for me, but had I not made it in television, I probably would have been doing podcasting, because I think it's an opportunity to hone your skills, make connections, and like you guys are natural at it. And if you're good at it, who knows what you're doing and saying, "Hey, I like those guys. Let's get them in here. Maybe we can have them do this show or that show." You're in the game. I write that in the book. When I was at Fox Television, this is before podcasts, people used to send in tapes, resumes, and when they would come in, they would throw them into this empty room. And every once a month, the news director would come by and say, "I want this room cleaned out by the end of the day." Nobody even looked at them.
Yeah.
So I always say, do whatever you can do to get your foot in the door and then work from within. Hard to get in, but work from within. That means, like, I got in as a sound man originally. I tell people, if you can get in, running for coffee, do it, because you're going to make friends and you're going to get opportunity along the way. You guys are in the game, right? If somebody's, "Let me see a tape. Let me see what you have something to send somebody."
That's a good point. I never really thought of it like that. And we got our shirts too, huh?
You're not wannabes. You're doing it.
Yeah, that's true. I like that.
Well, thank you. I mean, if you ever want us to be a part of a TV show, let us know. We'll run.
Yes, and you're doing a good job, and you're creating a body of work.
Yeah.
When we first started doing profiles, we were doing it for a small segment on Staten Island, New York. I mean, Staten Island, New York has 500,000 people. It's a big community. But we were just doing a show for Time Warner on Staten Island. So when we were approached by NYC Media, which goes out to 20 million, we had like 30 shows already. 20. So we had a body of work.
Yes.
Now creating. So when your next opportunity surfaces, you guys, you'd be almost veterans by then.
Oh man, I feel good talking to you. You want to stay a little longer? keep blowing smoke up our ass.
Yeah, you're asking me about podcast. I think it's opportunity that didn't exist, 10 years ago. It was non-existent. And today, if you have the skills, you have a place to showcase them.
That's true.
Yeah. I must say, if you ever start a podcast, you definitely have that like golden radio voice for it.
I tell you, I made a big mistake years ago. If I went into radio, you know how many suits I had to buy over the years? I got to shave. I got to look. I got to get a haircut. I see the way they go into the studios. They go, flip flop. Made a big mistake. I should have went into. I would have saved a fortune in suits alone.
Yeah, I mean, I think Nick's in pajama bottoms right now. So,
dude, I actually am wearing my pajama pants.
I could. I can't get away with that. Like I have two tomorrow, and I got to get dressed up as best. Wear my Sunday best.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, and I mean, I got this shirt because it has our logo and stuff on it, but I didn't realize I sit so close to the camera so I can be more interactive. You can't even see the logo.
That's funny. Interestingly, you talk about dress and radio and TV and all of that. And I've had a battle with our network during my 20 years. And they say, Mickey, because I always wear a suit, a tie, handkerchief. I try to be as dressed as I can be, right? And they always say, why don't you dress down? Have an open collar shirt, khakis, like that. And I always come back and say, I can't tell you how many of the celebrities I've had on my show compliment me on how great I look. Because, they see it as a sign of respect. And that means everything.
See that.
And they come on with they say, this guy means business. He's not fooling around. This guy knows he's a professional. So I think appearance is, on TV. If I was doing a podcast, I'd have my bathing suit on.
There you go.
you do have to dress the part. And I think it definitely added a very high level of professionalism to like a sentimental interview. So that's nice.
I agree. I agree completely.
But you don't have, I'm just old school. That's all. I'm old school. And I can't break it. Even my publicist and you're so conservative, but I do it. There's a reason I do it.
Well, not only that, but you've been doing it for a long enough time to where that's what they want to see. They're familiar with that look, with your style, and that is part of you, and they like that. If you were doing something different, people might, is he okay?
Right. Yeah. So I'm going to stick with that. Even though I've won the battle with the network, they've given up, and I dress the best I can, and I'll continue to do that. And simply as a sign of respect for my guests.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So I guess, with that last bit said, you probably wouldn't like on retirement or your last interview, like dress up like in a Hawaiian, like button up, like you're going vacationing after this.
Well, it's funny you should ask that question. But it's very interesting because, when David Letterman retired, I don't think he shaved a day after that.
Yeah.
You're right.
Like Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was his swan song. No, with me, when I retire from this, and it's funny because I don't think about doing that because I have people who depend on me for a living. I have my editor's been with me 20 years. My photographer's been with me 20 years. My camera people, my producers, my field producer, and if it wasn't for them, I might think along those lines. But they're looking, I have to maintain that livelihood for them.
That's extremely big-hearted of you to.
Well,
wow.
They've been loyal to me, so I can't leave them hanging.
Do you know Soho Johnny?
Very well.
He's got some amazing suits, some good glitter ones.
I call him an angel.
Yeah.
And he really is. I mean, he does things for people nobody knows. He's like Frank Sinatra. You know, he does things for people that nobody know about. No, you know, and he doesn't want any credit for it. You know,
I mean,
Wow.
example, I don't want to pound this, but you might be embarrassed if I talk about him. But when the pandemic hit, our studio had to close in Times Square. So we were left without a studio. I said, oh my, what are we going to do? You know, and through a friend, met Soho Johnny. You know why they call him Soho Johnny? Because he's a real estate tycoon.
yeah.
Owns numerous properties throughout New York City. So he said, oh yeah, I have numerous places where we can build this, you know, set up a studio for you. And in Soho, he had this beautiful space with a fireplace, and we moved in there, and we've been doing interviews there since August.
Nice.
But
Damn.
again, you know, until, you know, I don't. When are we going to get back to Times Square? You know, when the pandemic is over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Johnny saved our bacon since August.
That's awesome.
So,
Yeah.
Soho Johnny was on the Mindless Morning Show as well, and I didn't get to interview him because Texas decided to freeze over, and we lost power for like 2 days.
Right. Well, you know, ask him to come on again, because he is an angel, and some of the things he's doing, he might talk to you about it, but he's doing some great things, and he gets very little credit for it. Doesn't want any credit for it. Just likes helping people and organizations. He's a tremendous individual.
Well,
Yeah,
that's it's amazing that there's so many people that are doing massive things, and you are included because you have been. I mean, you're entertaining people, you're making people smile, you're letting people talk about what they're doing in their careers, promoting themselves, and you're also sticking around for as long as possible because you're looking around and you're like, my crew's depending on, like, that's huge.
Oh, and I love what I do.
Yeah, that's important.
That's true.
Yeah. And a lot of times I ask my guests, who have been around, like Don McLean and people like that. I said, "Are you ever going to retire?" And they said, "Retire to what? I'm an artist. I'll never retire." Most people in show business feel that way.
Yeah,
Yep.
that makes sense.
Christopher Plummer was, he was still doing it. He won an Oscar when he was 88.
Yeah, that's a good point, because even when people retire, they're still working on something, like,
Yeah. And if you love what you do, why would you want to retire? Retire to what? To sit on the beach? Bored? As long as I can play golf, once, twice a week, I'm good. I'm semi-retired.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. I mean, you're having a good time doing it. And honestly, it's probably helping, people stay sharp, having that.
Absolutely. I'm telling you, when I go play golf, I'm more alert. I'm energized. I get the exercise, the competition. I have it down. It works for me.
That's
Nice.
perfect.
Well, I gotta say, make sure you don't forget about us. Like when you think of like a mindless morning TV show you need, or just some hectic show, we're your guys.
You and I have developed a relationship today.
Yeah.
You never know what's going to happen down the road.
That's very true.
You just never know.
You're putting butterflies in my stomach. I love it.
You know what? Keep doing what you're doing. And I tell people this all the time. When we do a show, I've done, the episodes are like 537 episodes, something like that. After it's over, I watch every frame, not only me, my staff. And after we watch it, we say, what can we do better? How can we improve it? What did you see that wasn't just right? And we critique every episode, every frame. And that's the way you're going to get better.
Yep.
You use it as your last show. I mean, you got to believe that. and you've always got to aspire to do better.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that your team gets together and really contributes to the whole process.
It's like a family.
Yeah. Say sometimes, I think maybe it was, the sound was, a little, it could have been overmodulated a hair, maybe that camera was too hot. Who left that coffee cup in the background? Nobody would see, but they'll catch the little things, and you aspire to do better, maybe we should move that third camera a little higher, might make a more interesting shot. So you're always trying to do better.
Well, we definitely aspire to be the best we can be, and you definitely inspire us. You gave us a lot of good compliments today. So.
And when you come to New York, let's go out and have lunch when that's a feasible thing to do.
Oh man!
Hell yeah,
all right,
absolutely.
I'm taking you up on that because my wife has family in New York.
Maybe you come up this summer or something, and I'll show you. Maybe you come, on the set and all of that.
Oh man,
That'd be amazing.
Just making me blush over here. Well, I got to say, it was an absolute pleasure and an absolute honor to have you. All of your links will be found. So anyone that wants to look into Mickey Burns or even buy his book, all the links are in the description below. Be sure to check them out. Mickey, is there anything you want to tell our listeners?
No, just that if they need to get in touch with me, I'm easy to do so. Facebook, Mickey Burns TV, Instagram, Mickey Burns TV, or my books, Barnes & Noble, just put in Mickey Burns, and my 2 books will pop right up. So I'm easy to find.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Awesome. Again, it was amazing having you. And thank you so much for your time with us. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure, my honor. Continued success to you guys.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you guys for tuning in to the Mindless Morning Show. We hope you enjoyed it, and we greatly appreciate you guys picking us out of the many great podcasts out there. Now go enjoy your mindless day.